Have you ever pondered the possibility of reintroducing social ranks that value qualities such as diligence and responsibility? Envision a society where these attributes are not merely acknowledged but rewarded. In today's societal system, we often find ourselves at the mercy of bureaucrats who rigidly apply the law, disregarding any nuances or dismissing our arguments. But what if that were to change? What if, based on merit, an individual could outrank a low-level bureaucrat, a police officer, or even a judge? This idea may seem radical, but it could be a significant stride towards societal reform. After all, our current system isn't flawless. The majority rule in democracy has had its share of pitfalls, one being the centuries it took to acknowledge that the earth is round, not flat. Picture this scenario. Lodging a complaint could take up to 3 months before it's even processed. If you disagree with a bureaucrat's decision, challenging it could involve a lengthy process that could span up to 8 years, as exemplified by the Toslagan affair scandal. But what if we took this concept a step further? What if we applied this rank system from early childhood? A 14-year-old could be classified as an adult based on their merits and responsibilities, forcing society to adapt to the individual, not the other way around. This approach could even alleviate one of the major criticisms of our current school system, in which the school system adapts to the individual, in which children take on a more individual learning experience than by following the progress of the entire classroom. Because what is more annoying than being forced to sit through a lesson which you had already understood from the moment at which the concept was introduced? Imagine that you then had to sit in class waiting for the slower learner to have caught up with the learning process. This becomes essentially time wasted, in which, at best, the person whom had already understood the concept can assist the teacher because you might be able to give an input that the teacher fails to give, which is required by the person trying to catch up. This means that the student becomes essentially the teacher, and that is a place where due credit can be given. What else can a person do because they have no choice but to wait until the next concept is introduced and the class to continue progressing towards the next topics? In a world where a citizen outranks a low-ranked bureaucrat, the bureaucrat would be placed in a defensive position. The upside? You, as a citizen, would be shielded from the potential harm caused by their decision. However, the challenge lies in proving the harm from their decision when you overturn their decision. But if you do not overturn their decision, then there's a risk of cover-up campaigns when bureaucrats attempt to evade accountability for the damage caused by their decision. This proposal isn't without its risks, the primary one being its correct implementation. However, the threat of demagoguery remains a realistic concern. So essentially, this could carve the path towards a world ruled by a philosopher-emperor, or perhaps even a group of philosopher-emperors working in union, because this is how you could create the selection criteria for a philosopher-emperor, in which you can essentially eliminate the threat of demagoguery, as long as they know when it is time to pass on the torch. But the potential benefits of this system outweigh these risks, and the correct implementation will decide the success or failure. This means that the fault does not exist in the concept but rather the implementation. Imagine forums where citizens could share their experiences and seek support from high-ranking citizens to overturn a bureaucrat's decision. This system could serve as a check on bureaucratic power, ensuring that decisions affecting you are fair and just. Furthermore, if a child is labeled as an adult based on merit, shouldn't they be allowed to vote? If they have the reasoning skills, why shouldn't they have a say in societal decisions? This approach could also address the question of voting rights for individuals with severe mental disabilities who might exhibit and display more nuanced thinking than some adults. The worst is that some of those people lacking nuance work in decision-making positions such as a complaint department. Imagine waiting 3 months for the handling of your complaint, and the response is that the decision will not be undone. Imagine that this statement holds no information giving details about the reasoning or nuance. This means that essentially, they give nothing but a statement that the decision will not be undone. Imagine receiving this response in which none of your arguments provided are countered or let alone addressed. Should such a person providing this type of response to a complaint even be allowed to vote? Or at the very least, should we admit that perhaps a mistake was made in the hiring process? Because this type of person might be able to handle straightforward cases but complaints that require true nuance? Then perhaps these people start functioning in the same way a broken clock works, in which they only point at the correct time twice a day. This is where, in some cases, you can make a new complaint. This means that a new person becomes responsible with undoing the error. To a true nuanced person, this is the point in which it becomes a relevant question if this is not the very beginning of insanity, because as Einstein said, the beginning of madness is repeating the same and expecting a different result. So what this mean? What if by feigning due and proper process while maintaining groupthink bias, they essentially create a system that maintains the status quo and results in abuse of power in which all the individual departments function as a single entity? This proposal isn't about financial gain, it's about moral responsibility. It is about giving credit where credit is due. It's about a society where citizens have the power to make decisions that are fairer and more just. It's about creating a system that values diligence, responsibility, and merit above all. It's about reimagining societal ranks for the betterment of all.